Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Slaying Sober, where we tell stories of addiction, recovery, and hope. Wherever you are on your sober journey, know that you do not stand alone. A quick heads up before we dive in. Slaying Sober episodes get colourful, sweary, and real about drug use, wild nights, and the messy road to recovery. We share a powerful message of enlightenment and hope in an entertaining style that we hope lifts you up. But at times we get deep and touch on themes such as suicide and idealisation of chaos. If that's too heavy for you right now, take care of yourself first and come back later. We're here for honest stories, not to trigger. Listen when you're ready, and thanks for your support of Slaying Sober. G'day legends, welcome back to Slaying Sober. My name's James, and today I am joined by John. John's story hits hard. He calls himself a professional drug addict of over 33 years, where he used and abused any drugs he could get his hands on. We talk about his life of crime, jails, suicide attempts, and eventually the loss of his son, and the many failed attempts at sobriety, and how he turned it round with his golden 4 rules of recovery. Today, we answer many questions, including what does God look like? Are we allowed to gamble? And when are we going to the gym too much? Stick around to unpack it all, as well as the freedom beyond in his 13 years of being clean and serene. There's a lot of hope in this discussion to keep slaying sober. G'day, John. Welcome to Slaying Sober. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice. Thanks, James. Thanks for having me here.
I'm looking forward to hearing your story today.
Yeah, no, well, hopefully I can give some inspiration to people out there. I'm just an addict in recovery. I'm nothing special. I'm just here to tell my story and give hope to other people, hopefully. But that was given to me in the early days as well, so I'm just passing it on.
Yeah, beautiful. Tell us about John before he picked up drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, basically, I came from good parents and all that sort of stuff. And when I was in primary school, I used to be very skinny. I was the perfect target of the bullies, and I was very quiet, reserved sort of child, very soft spoken, all that sort of thing. So I'd be beat up all the time at lunch, and in my lunch money would be taken on me. I'd beat up on the way home from school, and it became quite a constant thing in my primary school years.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't fight at those days, I couldn't defend myself. So Mum would come down to school and she'd bow up the headmaster and cause a big scene, blah, 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 and get these bullies in trouble. So I became known as Mummy's boy at that stage.
Oh, no.
And that just made me a bigger target, made it a lot harder for me. So I learned from a very young age just to shut my mouth and keep myself to myself, not tell anyone what's going on. But when I was 14, I joined the local gang. My brother's a career criminal, and he was a bigger, meaner sort of character. And like a little brother does, I look up to my big brother.
Yeah.
He was like a god to me, so I just did what he did.
Where did you grow up, John?
Where?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in South Australia, but I moved to Melbourne when we were 15 years old. By then, the drugs had already taken place.
Yeah.
I was already in the drug scene by then. And the first drug I ever did was alcohol.
Yes. And what was that like for you?
Unreal. I still remember, not exactly the buzz sort of effect, but I do remember the impact it had on my life. And because I was in that gang mentality, I felt like I belonged somewhere for the first time in my life. And I was like their little mascot because I was so small. So I was like their mascot. And when I drink, I become very violent, obnoxious, loud, abusive, all that sort of stuff. And like I said, violence was a big thing in my story. And that really cemented my place in that gang mentality. I was that little guy you don't mess around with, and I got known for that.
Yeah, okay. Angry little man.
Yeah. That syndrome. But it wasn't, I don't know whether it was syndrome, that small man mentality, but to me it was more like the alcohol and the drugs were the thing that fueled that sort of that aggression.
Yeah. What do you think that aggression was coming out of you? Was it something from your childhood or wanting to be seen? Or,
Good question. I've never really. I think it's a mixture of a couple of things. Actually, it's the protection. So that way people couldn't see who I really was deep down inside me. That I was that really scared sort of young child still, and it was probably also. I came from good family, but very dysfunctional family.
yeah, yeah. Now, when you picked up, I know that you were in active addiction for 33 years.
Yeah.
How did that progress from this initial drinking when you were a teenager?
Well, it started out, like I said, drinking was my big thing at first, and I drank to blackout straight away. I didn't, and I could never understand why people would go home.
Mm.
That was a foreign concept to me. Like,
Yeah,
come on, the party's still going. There's still alcohol left. There's still drugs left. What's going on? Why are you stopping?
yeah,
That was pretty much right. But it progressed into drugs. I mean, alcohol's a drug, as I'm aware of, but it progressed into other drugs because I started smoking dope at a very young age as well. And I couldn't do alcohol and drugs together. I'd green out, what they call green out. I had a decision to make, and I suppose I liked to be mellow sometimes, so I chose the marijuana. I'd still drink every now and then, but I wouldn't mix the two.
yes.
And I would smoke dope more. And then amphetamines came into play at the age of 15.
Mm.
And that was like fantastic, because I was a party animal. I loved to go into, well, back in those days, there were blue light discos, which was quite ironic.
Yeah.
The run by the cops.
Yeah, I've had this discussion before. Yeah.
I thought it was quite funny that the cops would turn a blind eye to the addiction side of it, or the people would smash really bad, and the violence, and
yeah.
I mean,
maybe the enemy the enemy you know, or the enemy you don't.
Well, I look at it now.
Keep them close.
Maybe they gave him an insight into the local riffraff.
Yeah, possibly.
They didn't have to come looking for us. We were there showing ourselves, our faces, This is who I am,
What year are we talking here, John, that you started taking amphetamines?
Early 80s.
Yep. So was that like, how did amphetamines look like in the early 80s? Like, was it speed and...
Yeah. There was no ice back then. It was speed.
Yep.
And the speed had ephedrine in it, and it was highly cut with ephedrine. It was like, I don't want to trigger anyone. I've got to be careful not to trigger anyone. But it was really impacting. It was really high quality. You'd have a little bit and you'd last for a long time, so it was a lot more effective. And I used to go, even when I was 17, like I said, my brother was in the, major criminal element. Yes. He used to bounce at one of the major nightclubs, so I'd get access to that at a young age. And I was just raging all night, just having me speed, and then just going all night non-stop.
Yeah, and so were you kicking about with some of these organised crime figures at this point?
Yeah. I wasn't involved in the high end stuff. But I certainly know of what they're up to, and I certainly did hang with them to a degree.
Yeah.
I got known by them, and I was protected because I was I was the little brother of this guy. I won't mention his name, of course.
Yeah.
He changed his name by deed poll to protect the family because it was becoming a bit hairy.
Yep.
So there's that protection factor, and it sort of made it worse for me. And I look back now because I knew I was protected.
Yeah. Yep. So you felt like you could do what you want when you wanted.
I could run amok, and I was certainly following my brother's footsteps as well.
So what were the consequences of your addiction then, or your consumption then?
Well, I didn't see any consequences. I look back now, this hindsight stuff again. Yeah. In those days, like I came from, like I said, decent family, and they weren't appreciative of the way I was living my life. I become a bit of a monster. And Mum had rules, even though they were quite crazy rules. She had rules, and I didn't like rules. I was very anti-rule. Mum and I would clash a lot, and she'd either kick me out or I'd leave. So I was homeless a lot. So that was a side effect of the addiction. And going into boys' homes and jails. I was in a boys' home at a young age. I was 17 when I first went to an adult jail. I was one of the youngest people to go to Pentridge.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that was a bit of an eye-opener.
What were you incarcerated for then?
Multiple things. I won't go into specifics, but it was multiple things. at that stage, it wasn't really high end stuff. It was more just an accumulation of, I suppose you can't say minor. It wasn't like theft
Yes.
from a shop, basically. I won't go into detail, but it wasn't theft from a shop. It was a bit more extreme than that, but it
Yep.
wasn't as big as murder. So it's in that middle
Mm.
range there. I was going.
Yep.
But I actually went to Pentridge. The funny is, I didn't go to Pentridge for a crime as such. I went to Pentridge because I escaped from boys' homes 4 times, and they couldn't hold
Okay.
me. I was a bit of
Yeah.
an escape artist.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like being imprisoned at all.
No.
I don't think anyone does, realistically. I remember, and I'll say this to people, the first thing, even if you're only doing, let's say, a month in jail, I don't know about for other people, but even if I'm doing a month in jail, the first thing I do when I went into any sort of penal institution was look for a way out. How do I escape?
Yeah.
That's my
Yep.
first thought. How do I get out of here?
Mm.
So I did that
Yeah.
multiple times, and they eventually, at the age of 17, they couldn't contain me in a boys' home, or YTC they called them back then, so they put me into Pentridge. Naturally, I didn't
Wow.
escape.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That place.
And I think what you said there resonates. That you were trying to escape. The first automatic thought that you had was, "How do I escape this place?" And I think as addicts, that's our go-to default, isn't it? Like when we're
Yeah.
taking drugs and alcohol, that is an escape from ourselves and our
Yeah.
own head. So that's probably a default setting in an addict's mind.
Yeah, I hit the nail on the head. Like, it is all about escapism. Like, I don't want to be in this reality. So how
Yeah.
do I get out of this reality? And what I found in the jails, I actually had more access to drugs than I had on the
Yeah.
street.
Okay.
Well, not more access, it was just a lot easier. I didn't have to go
Yeah.
searching. It was right there in front of me. It was offered to me. So
Wow.
I
So
found that way out through drugs.
Yeah. Okay. When you speak about a boys' home, what is that more specifically? Is it a youth detention centre or?
I'm not sure what they call it now. Juvenile detention or whatever they call it now. I'm not sure the term, but it used to be called YTC with Youth Training Centre. It's funny they called it a training centre. They just trained up how to be a better criminal, basically. I remember coming out of my third jail stint, and I was a bit surprised with the way things had changed by then. And I lobbied the government to go back to the old ways of prison, because in my personal opinion, jail's tough no matter what you look at. Like, it's not easy, I know that, but it's too soft still.
Yeah.
I actually remember when I went back to my third prison sentence, and it'd been privatised by that time, the jail. And I thought, what the fuck's going on here? I've got a TV in my cell.
Yeah.
I've got this, I've got that, I've got this. I didn't have that when I was in Pentridge at 17. I had nothing. And I'm of the opinion, and probably a lot of criminals out there are going to hate me for saying this, but there's an old saying, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Yes.
And I felt like if I got caught, it's my fuck up. I got caught. I need to pay for that. So put me in a cell with a TV and this, that, and all these luxuries. Well, where's the punishment there?
Well, and also, we're based in Victoria, and at the moment, my understanding is it's pretty fucking hard to get put in jail in the first place. Like the justice system, is questioned quite a bit.
Yeah. I was speaking to, like, I deal with a lot of homeless people at the moment, and I was speaking to a homeless guy. He said, I just want to go to jail.
Yeah.
He was trying to commit crimes to go to jail.
Yes.
He was a better place than being on the streets. So that's just crazy. Our justice system. But
yeah, we yeah, I was about to say we digress a little bit. So your addiction saw you institutionalized in jail, but you kept using moving forward.
Yeah. I remember when I came out of jails, because by then my addiction had got pretty chaotic, and I kept fucking locked up and all sorts of shit kept going on as it does. And I get clean for a little while. I was in jail, and I think, I won't use when I get out, But the moment I got out, the very first moment, I just couldn't wait. First thing I'd do is I'd go to a dealer's house, then I'd go see some female in that order.
Yeah.
That was pattern of every time I got out of jail.
Yeah, wow. And then you'd get thrown back in at some point.
Yeah, well, the drugs, just the chaos would just continue, And,
so what did your addiction look like at its worst?
Jesus Christ. Horrific. And it's hard to pinpoint when you mean the worst, it's hard to pinpoint what the worst is, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a mixture of worst, but, a bit of excitement. Then the worst is the attempted suicides. Is that the worst? And there was 4 of them.
Yeah.
So that's, I suppose, if you want to put the worst, is if I wanted to kill myself, then that's the worst. And that was 4 times.
It's really interesting, like that concept of a rock bottom that, rock bottom must mean death, mustn't it? Like,
yeah, what I do nowadays when I talk to people, I try and educate them whether they want to hear from and it's just my opinion, how I see things from my experience and my knowledge. And one thing I do talk about is rock bottom. And like you just said, rock bottom for an addict is death. You hear people saying, "Oh, I've hit rock bottom." I said, "No, you're not dead yet."
Yeah.
There's just different levels to get to that rock bottom that we hit.
Yeah, and if you're still alive, you've still got hope, don't you?
Haven't hit rock bottom. No.
Yeah.
And
rock bottom for one person and for another can be completely different, like
that's what I try and say. I try and speak to people about that rock bottom, because if you think you've hit rock bottom, I can tell you've got another thing coming. If you don't believe you can go any worse, pick up a drug, you'll find out.
Yeah.
It gets worse every time.
Yeah. So what led you to change?
Desperation.
Actually, desperation. Let me rephrase that. Over your 33 years of addiction, like how many times did you try and quit, and what methods did you use?
I first tried to get clean, and like I was not one of those addicts who said I don't have a problem. I knew I was a drug addict from a very young age, and I used to use that as an excuse for my behaviour. Actually, it was like I used to wear it like a badge. And I'd do some fucked up shit, and someone said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm a drug addict. What do you expect?" Because that's what you expect for drug addicts, to do that sort of shit. But at the age of 37, I thought, okay, I've had enough. I had a 7-year-old boy in tow. I was a single dad, and I'll go into that if you want me to. And I looked at my life. I realised drugs were an issue for me. They were destroying my life. I thought, I can't keep doing this. And I went and saw a drug counsellor at the age of 37. And for the next 10 years, I tried probably every method you'd probably ever think of to get clean. Getting clean wasn't the hard part for me. Getting clean was simple. It was staying clean I couldn't do.
Yeah.
I can get clean real easy. That's simple. That wasn't a problem. It was a bit uncomfortable, a bit painful, but I can get through that.
So talk to us about some of the things you've done to get clean.
Okay. 6 detoxes.
Yep.
I never did a rehab, because to me a rehab was like a prison sentence and there's no way I was going back to jail.
Yep.
That's why I didn't do. I'm not against rehab, but that's, for me, that was my story. I moved to Queensland. I moved to Sydney.
Geographical.
Yeah. Thinking if I just get away from my so-called friends, then I'll be within 2 hours of landing at the airport. I was on the drug scene again. I couldn't wait to get on, because I hadn't had drugs on the plane, or like I was hanging. I had to get drugs. I tried psychotherapy. I tried pharmacotherapy. I tried the old medicine routine. I tried Reiki, hypnosis, acupuncture, put myself into the country region. If I just go out the bush somewhere, and that was just terrible. That was the worst experience I've ever had in my life, because I'm not a bush person at all. It didn't take long to come back to the city and find the drugs again. I can't imagine anything I didn't try. I tried cold turkey. I tried willpower. Willpower lasts about half an hour, And then I'm sort of, God, I've just got to have something.
And is that the insanity of the disease, or the desperation of trying to give up? You try so many different things.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most painful part of addiction, to be honest. I mean, the rest of the pain can be washed away with drugs. But when you're trying to give up, you haven't got that solution. If you're really trying really hard to give up, you don't have that solution at hand right at that moment. So it's probably the most painful part, and that's why a lot of people do relapse, is because it's painful internally.
Yes.
Because it goes against everything that your mind will tell you need to do. So it's a massive battle. And it wasn't easy. I rephrase that. It was, I always say, people say, oh, recovery is really, it's not easy. And I try and rephrase that, because what I now understand, I didn't understand back then, is that the addiction lies in the way I think.
Yes.
So if I convince myself that it's not easy or it's too hard, I'm going to use every day of the week. Recovery's too hard.
Yeah.
So when someone says, "Oh, recovery's not easy," I say, "Well, how was you using?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if you look at when you get through that bump period, I call it, which is about the first 3 to 6 months, it's called the bump. I call it. It's like hitting a road bump.
Yep.
Once you get through that, you realise recovery is pretty easy. The first 3 to 6 months, I call them challenging and confronting.
Yes.
But it can be done with help and support. You can't do it all. I've discovered you can't do it alone. I mean, I don't know about I'm not, and just for your listeners out there, this is my story. It may not be yours. I'm fully aware of that. You know, but if you're resonating with it, then you know my story becomes your story realistically.
Yeah, well, it gives hope, and it's really interesting. So you've tried all of these other ways that didn't work. What did work in the end?
Well, in my first detox, these people come out from this support group, from this 12-step fellowship. And back in those days, I'm going way back in time now, they used to take you straight away from, these people do what they call a presentation. They take you straight off to a meeting straight after the presentation. So you got to see what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Years later, public liability come into it and they don't do it anymore, which is sort of sad. So I went to my first meeting, and it's sort of like, I remember going to the meeting, and I share this a lot when I do H&I myself now, and you know, in this meeting, there's all these addicts around there, and they seem to be living fairly good lives, and they had good clothes, and you know, they had jobs back. Not all of them, but you know, there was laughter there, and that was really foreign policy to me. Like laughing, not on drugs and laughing, like I couldn't laugh at all. And you know, they're saying that off all drugs, including alcohol, like total abstinence program. And I'm thinking, nah, come on, you guys have found a super drug. You found a drug I don't know about. Because in my mind would tell me I can't have fun without drugs. I can't enjoy life without drugs. Now, here's the first bit of insanity I uncovered. The insanity of that thought is when I put a drug in my system, I'm absolutely miserable.
Yes.
But my head would tell me I can't have fun and enjoy my life without it. And this is the insanity in my thinking. So I didn't believe these people at first. Nah, you found a super. I actually believe they found some drug I don't know about. I really believe that. And then they told me that addictions are, you know, something wrong with my mind. I thought, you guys are crazy. Like I didn't believe there's anything wrong with my mind. You know, I wasn't schizophrenic or this, or you know, I wouldn't say I was crazy or insane. You know, I wasn't in an asylum. So how could I be insane?
So you understood it to be a disease of the mind, as opposed to what, a character flaw or...
No, not back then. I didn't. I had discovered that down the track, but I actually thought there was something wrong with me. And I think this is a problem that society and in general puts upon the addict. And I'll try to educate and one of my big things now is educate the general public to what addiction really is, not what they think it is.
Yes.
Because my dad, and I think every addict's had someone like this, and I do, when I talk to other addicts in recovery, we all identify with this, that there's always someone, whether it be a mum, dad, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, whatever, someone who says, just stop.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with you? Can't you see the damage you're doing to you? My dad used to say, can't you see what you're doing to the family? What's wrong with you? Now, I get that sort of thing now. I understand well they say that. But when that's directed at you and you're already feeling like a shit person because you can't stop anyhow, and you're doing things against your moral fibre, which you know you shouldn't be doing but you can't help because addiction does that to you, it makes you feel 10 times worse. And what I understand now, addiction is an emotional response. The actual using is a solution to the problem, which is the emotional response in my body.
Yes.
So when someone bombarded me with all this negative stuff and I'm no good, I start to believe that. So I think, so when I was in addiction, I just thought I was a terrible person.
Yeah.
So if I think I'm like that, I'm going to behave like that.
Yeah. I used on that for a really long time, you know, like it was that drove me to my worst despair, was the using on shame and guilt and letting other people down and not being enough for others.
Yeah. And that's the cycle. You know, the more we use, the more damage we do to other people, including especially the loved ones. And the more damage we do to people, the worse we feel. So we use, it's just that cycle, you know.
Yeah, and it goes round and round.
And no one can understand, especially we call them normies or people who don't have addiction problems. They really can't get it, and I don't expect them to. I remember a lot of people say, my parents done this. I wish they would just. I said, don't expect them to. Yep.
So, so this 12-step program,
Yep.
you found a solution in it.
Yeah. Well. See, what happened is, I first went back down my first detox. Then I didn't go back, and I tried all the other methods I mentioned earlier. Then, like I had a whole heap of shit go down that 10 years. Like I said, I was a single dad. When my son turned 15, he because I was in and out of, like, I was mainly in active addiction for those 10 years, and he'd seen a lot of stuff, stuff that children should not be, see or be put through. And I was in a drug house. I always lived in drug houses. I never lived in normal environments, of course. And he walked into my room, and I was off my head at the time. And he said, Dad, I'm leaving home. I never want to see you again. I'm basically disowned me. Didn't really affect me for a number of days. I was off my head. It didn't really have any impact at all. But when that impact happened, which took 3 days for me to realise, like, man, he really wants nothing more to do with me. That was pretty heavy stuff to deal with. So I just, what I call, up the ante. Is what I did I look back now, once again, this is hindsight. Every time I had an emotional upheaval in my life, whether it be a breakup of a girlfriend or something really emotional would happen to me, I just raised the bar one more time. And I kept raising this bar. I'd either switch to a different type of drug, which I was quite comfortable with, or I just raised the bar on the drug I was doing at the time. I used to class myself as a professional drug addict. I would try absolutely anything you put in front of me. If you tell me it gets me out of myself, I'm going to give it a shot. Some of the things I've tried are absolutely ridiculous. When I look back, absolutely ridiculous. But someone told me to get me off my head, so I'd give it a shot.
Wow.
After that 8 months of going through that I went to the extreme level of my addiction, was that last 8 months of my addiction. I abused really severely, and at the end of that 8 months, like I said, I tried suicide 4 times. And at the end of the 8 months, I remember, I'll never forget the last time I used. I can't afford to, ever forget that time, because that's what brought me to recovery. Was using the drugs, and I'm crying like a baby because I didn't want to use. And that's the battle between the addiction and my soul. Like, I really did not want to. I was at wit's end, but I had to use. My mind told me, and I did. I used. I went back into a detox. That's the only thing I'd ever known that would give me some sort of relief. And every time I came out of a detox, I felt like I was done. I was never going to use again. I felt that way every time I came out of a detox. But this last time I came out of the detox, I'd done so much damage in 8 months to so many people who didn't deserve it that, it was not a good pretty coming out. I was, I was told I was going to be murdered. I was disowned by multiple people, nearly everybody. And the suicide thought come back very rapidly then. I read that. But I don't know, out of nowhere, this 12-step fellowship come to my mind, to give this one more. I went into recovery this time around with thinking that if recovery doesn't work this time around, that's it. I'm done. Like, there's no middle ground for me anymore. It was basically, and I hear this all the time in the rooms, it was life or death. And for me, that was real. It wasn't something. It wasn't just a flippant remark.
It was a real last chance.
That was the reality. And I didn't think the program would work for me, to be honest. I was 47 years old. I was in a really severely bad way. Anyone who knows me back those days can tell you that.
Yeah.
And even the guy who took me through this program, actually, my 1 year clean, said he didn't think I'd make it. Even he didn't have faith in me making it because I was that messed up. But when you asked me earlier what brought me into recovery, and it was desperation. And they have in these sort of 12-step fellowships things they suggest you do to get a good recovery. For me personally, these become my golden rules. It was the only way I was going to be able to do it. And I always tell people, if you do the hardcore recovery, like I did a hardcore addiction. I call it hardcore addiction. I did for a long time. Now, if I'm going to get any sort of peace and life worth living, I have to do a hardcore recovery, I call it, which means these suggestions become my golden rules to live life by. And for me, that's how it worked. They suggest you go 90 meetings in 90 days, so I do 118.
Yeah.
They suggest you get a mentor sponsor and do the work, the program. I didn't want to do that. I remember sharing a meeting like, I don't need this. I don't need that to do that way because I knew everything. I was that know-all addict. I've been around, done all this. I know everything. And
aren't we all?
Yeah. but it was quite clearly explained to me, and I thank God this guy became my sponsor. He wasn't at that time, and I rang him up because I was so pissed off, and they're trying to they'll try and tell me what to do. That's how I felt in those early days. How
Yeah.
dare they do that? And I was abusing the program, abusing these people who told me I need to get a sponsor. I'm not, and he just nailed it on the head. He said, "Mate, whether you like or not, this is a 12-step program. You need a sponsor to do the steps." And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I knew it was the last resort for me.
Yep.
So begrudgingly, I did that, but I did do it. They did suggest you get supervision. You get yourself involved in the fellowship. I didn't get one. I got 13.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm an addict.
Yeah.
I don't do things half measure. Like I said, and this is my story. Like I said, I looked at it like I had a hardcore addiction. I have to do a hardcore recovery. I can't do it half measure. If I'm serious, which I was, like I said, this was life and death. If I'm really serious, I have to give it everything I've got because I gave drugs everything I had.
Yes.
They took everything from me. And here's something that's going to promise to give everything back in one form or another. So
recover like you used.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And that's the way I looked at it. I looked at it pretty much from day one. But I still didn't believe it would work for me. Because like you said, I've been in for 33 years, hardcore.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in those rooms, I hit someone, and this is no offence to anyone with who's only been using 5-10 years. I understand it's not about the time or what you use. I understand that now. But in my mind, I'd hear some addicts sitting there go, I've been using one drug or two drugs for 5 years. And in my head, I'm going, you're not even an addict.
Yeah.
You're just going through a bad time. Because I'd go through 5 years like real easy, and there was no, I was using hardcore and like I didn't end up in a room.
Yeah.
Try using so I believed I was the only true addict in the room at that stage. And I thought I was too far gone.
Yeah.
But evidence has shown me if I keep fronting up and I keep doing these suggested things day after day after, even if I don't want to, and I get that. A lot of people say, I can't bother going to this, and I can't bother. I said, did you do drugs against your own will? We did drugs against our own. We didn't want to do drugs. Most of us didn't want to do drugs, and especially in the last bit.
Yeah.
That's why we end up in the fellowship. We don't want to do drugs anymore. So just do the other thing in return. I know you don't want to go here and you don't want to do this. I've been there. I know that feeling. But just do it anyhow and see what happens.
Yeah. And it's worked for you for how long have you been clean for now?
I've been clean for 13 years, 7 months and 4 days.
Wow. After 33 years of use.
And every day counts still. Every day is a blessing for me still to this very day.
So the answer was 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yep.
Get a sponsor and do the work.
Yep.
And be of service to the 12-step fellowship.
Yep. Those were the 3 suggested things. And I remember, and I don't hear as much anymore. I actually definitely do constantly say that to people, especially newcomers, because that was suggested to me. And it's my obligation to pass that message on.
Yeah, and almost like the training and the maintenance as well. What do you do with the rest of your time to ensure that you're ready to perform at your best? And that can be daily prayer, meditation, inventory,
reading some literature,
reading some literature, reaching out to others in the fellowship, and not in the fellowship as well. Like you're living a spiritual life inside and outside of the rooms.
Yeah, and that's something, because I'm an addict, I also delved very heavily into the spiritual stuff outside of the rooms. I went to spiritual learning centres. I'm a spiritualist by faith. I went to a spiritualist church. I did a lot of spiritual stuff. I read a lot of spiritual books and a lot of stuff like that. So I enhanced my spirituality outside of the 12 steps as well.
Yeah, okay.
Which I'm grateful.
So what does a God look like for you?
No idea. Yeah, and that's something else I did. I tried to find out what is God, the ultimate question that everyone looks for. And in that research I did in the first 2 years of my recovery, I found out, I went through a couple of different religions. I didn't go delving really heavily into them, but I did look at this, what they offer. And what I found out that no one actually on earth that I'm aware of actually knows what God is, can actually define God in 100%. What I found with religion is, any religion I'm aware of, has a theory, a philosophy, and a belief, but they don't actually know.
Yes.
But I ran into this Indigenous elder up in Hastings when I was working up there, and I was working in an Aboriginal rehab. And he just nailed it. And we're talking about God concept and all that sort of thing, and he just nailed it really well for me. And I share this at meetings quite a bit because people do struggle with that God thing.
Yep.
And he just said, if there's no power greater than mankind, then show me a human being that can make dirt.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
thought, wow, there it is. That is just pure logic. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be religious. Just logic will tell you that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Really
and from
beautiful.
That, and knowing that no one really knows what God is, form your own concept. Whatever you believe, just realize it's something outside of ourselves.
Yeah, because it can scare the shit out of people as well. Like if they're walking into a room and, you know, a lot of people have had difficult relationships with authority, Catholic Church, abuse, all of these sorts of things. So they really struggle to look at the word God on the wall. But what you're saying there is it can be formed to however you should choose to see God.
Yeah. And you don't have to call it God, whatever this thing is. It's just a word. It's like, why do we call a chair? Because we named it a chair.
Yeah.
It's just a word that human beings have put on something they don't know.
Yes.
So call it whatever you like. Call it, and I put a bit of a spin on a bit of a joke on it. So call it Abba Dabba.
Yes.
You don't have to use that word. It's just a word. But it's the concept behind the word that will give you peace.
Which is that there's something bigger.
There's something greater than the human race.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like for you, it's irrelevant. You know, it's irrelevant to me. Whatever you believe. My dad's a total atheist, and I was talking about belief systems to him, and he goes, "I don't have a belief." I said, "Yes, you do." He said, "No, I don't have a belief. He believes you're born, you die." I said, "That is a belief. Every human being on the planet has a belief. If you don't believe in anything, that's your belief. And everyone has a belief."
Yeah, I think that the 12-step fellowship forces us to consider it.
Yeah, be open-minded.
Yeah,
and if you look at the logic of the statement from that Indigenous elder, it's only logical.
Yes.
That there has to be something. We don't have to work out. Don't try and work out what it is.
Yeah.
Whatever sits well with you, don't try and analyse it too much because you'll do your head in, trust me. Just accept the fact that, like, how do we know the sky is blue? Or how do we know there's a sky up there? Because it's there. How do we know how do we know there's wind?
Yes.
You can't see wind.
No.
How do we know it's there?
Yeah. Well, typically because the trees move would be the answer.
That could be gravity.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are things we believe in that we can't see.
Yes. Well, and also, like, why question it? Like someone said to me the other day, when you turn the light switch on, the light goes on and you don't think any deeper than that, let alone, yes, there's a wire that goes from the switch to the light bulb, but also, like, then that's just the micro, isn't it? Like, you've then got that cables connected to the street. The street's connected to a power plant. How the fuck does the power plant get the power? Like, how many people have touched this to allow me to turn that light bulb on? In other words, it's so much bigger than me, that light going on, and what control do I have of it?
And I think there's certain things that the human race will never understand. We're not meant to.
No.
I think that, and I talk to people about that as well. People say, and I think addicts are really good at this. We're trying to analyse and work out exactly where things come from or why. I say sometimes things don't need to be explained. We just need to accept.
Yes. Yeah, acceptance. And a lot can be learnt from that. Like, if you were to try and resolve everything, you'd never have any time to do anything. Like, if every time I turned a power switch on, I was having that internal conversation in my head, like, you'd never get anything done. Sometimes you just need to accept the physical happenings around us, like I've just described, but also emotional and mental acceptance as well.
Yeah. there's a couple of things I always say to people, and you hear it all the time. And I live my life. I try to live my life the best I can by these two sayings, and that is, everything happens for a reason, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Now we hear these sayings quite often. Very often
Mm.
you'll hear this, especially around the rooms. You hear it quite often. And I ask people, say, do you truly believe that?
Mm.
Because a lot of people say it but don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because if you truly believe everything happens for a reason, then just be at peace with it. Everything's peaceful.
Yes.
It is what it is means it's just let go. And when I live that sort of principle, and when I follow that sort of guideline through, and I've got this through the step work, I've got this peace, and through the stuff I've done, then nothing can ever faze me or bother me. I don't get angry. I go through human emotions, and I understand that's normal, but I don't get angry. I don't get severely depressed.
Yep.
I have emotions. I get frustrated. I get, cheesed off, I suppose you say, whatever, but I don't get angry as such because it is what it is and it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
It's got me through many, many tough times.
And the same with the manic as well. Like, I was speaking with someone else in fellowship only yesterday, and they were talking about, do I deserve to be happy? And I sort of said, well, like, is happiness the goal, or is contentment and peace and serenity a more achievable or more desirable, perhaps?
I think the goal for yourself is up to what you decide the goal is for yourself. I'm a very big believer in individuality. I think every human being is slightly different to the next. We may have a commonality, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think most humans are looking for contentment, just to be content. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be happy.
I would say that most people are looking for happiness, but that perhaps that they should consider contentment as a more desirable outcome. Because contentment is being at peace and at one, and being able to see the beauty and sit with it, see the problems and the challenges in front and deal with them in a rational, sane way. And then life is just pretty peaceful, I think,
And I suppose I should rephrase it. And you're right. And I look at contentment as being happy.
Yeah.
So if you're content, you're happy.
Yes.
There's a difference between happy and joyful.
Yes.
So people think, I want to be happy, but they attribute happy to being, that's joyful.
Yeah.
If you're content, you're happy.
Yeah. I guess it's all perceptions of words.
That's the big thing. Perception of everything. I'm very, very particular with wording.
Yes.
Because wording will create your reality. The way you think, the way you mainly think about your own reality will create your own reality. I'm a very big believer in that. I do believe in manifestation of your thought.
Yeah. Yep.
And I also realize, and that's the biggest thing with addiction, it is in my mind, driven by my emotions, but it's processed through my mind. So the way I think is very, very particular to me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's important to be precise, particularly in communicating with others as well. Like, there's often so much fluff in conversation. Like when people say maybe or probably, all these words that are half-assed. Like it's often a yes or no.
It's a sitting on the fence sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or trying to people please everyone or whatever it might be.
I hear a lot, especially I think it comes out of detox and rehabs a lot, is that thing called drug of choice. Because I've seen many, many, many addicts who think they have a drug of choice. So in the insanity of their mind, when their mind goes a little bit insane, their mind will say, I can drink because I'm not using my drug of choice. I call it a drug of preference.
Yes.
Because if you're really a truly addict, then you do not have a drug of choice. And it's a very dangerous thing to think you have that, because that when your mind goes a bit insane, which does happen, you will automatically say, well, I can drink because I didn't have a problem with that. That wasn't my drug of choice, and I'll be okay. And I've seen so many people fall over because of that.
What about when it's
that thinking?
Yeah. What about when it's not substance? So you're like the drug can be any dopamine chasing behavior, whether that's sex, shopping,
Yeah,
food, or
yeah.
otherwise.
I don't think there's anything wrong with addiction. That sounds
Mm,
pretty strange, I know.
yeah.
On the condition that it doesn't play out in your life in a negative fashion,
Yeah.
you know. Now you can be
Mm,
addicted to gym. Let's say we've got a gym person. Nothing
yep.
wrong with that addiction. It's quite a healthy thing.
Mm,
But if you're going to the gym when you should be at home with your wife and kids, there's an issue going on.
yeah.
If you're going to the
Yeah.
gym every morning prior to work because you're a tradie, let's say, and you're doing that religiously like an addiction, what's wrong with
Mm,
that?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you miss a day at gym, you feel uncomfortable. There's still nothing wrong with that. It's not having an
Yes.
impact on your life. It's actually probably a
Yep.
beneficial thing for you.
Mm,
So the word addiction can be very manipulative in a way because people think, oh, if you did something, you should stop doing it. No, I don't agree with that.
yeah.
I think if it's having an impact on your life in some negative fashion, then you should definitely address it.
Mm,
You know, like I go play poker at the pub, right?
mm-hmm.
I play bingo. Now these
Yep.
gambling things, I'm an addict. I shouldn't be doing this, right? This is what I've
Yeah.
been told these people who are, and one thing I did hear right from being, it's not Saints Anonymous,
Yes.
and I adapted to that. I realised I don't have to be giving up everything and not enjoying my life. I need to enjoy my life. That's what life is about. I enjoy playing poker. I enjoy playing bingo. Now, do I go to poker when I'm supposed to be at work? No, I don't have an addiction to that.
Mm,
I probably would have addiction if I was not on top of it. So that's something
yeah.
to also be aware. When you're aware that you can be addicted to something and you're setting wheels in motions to see if that doesn't work, but then you've got to be honest. If I'm going to poker and playing poker 3 times a week or 4 times a week, then I might have an issue with that because I'm too tired to go to work or this, or it's draining my
Mm,
money. I play poker once every 3 months or something like that. I went and played bingo
yeah.
yesterday for the first time in 4 months, and I bloody enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And spending.
I've got a real life example for you, John.
Yep,
So I still punt on the horses,
yep. Yes, I do. I
and
do again.
I get a great deal of satisfaction out of the numbers, the analysis, the
Yep.
it's something I've always been interested in. I own a few horses still, and but I also acknowledge that when I gamble and when I'm really in tune and passionate about horse racing, it takes up a lot of my bandwidth and my time
Mm.
because I'm studying results, watching videos, analyzing things, picking horses, betting on them, and then there's the component. So that's all the background and the intellectual stuff. But then there's the thrill of watching the race,
Mm.
which is an immense spike of
Yeah.
dopamine, not dissimilar to
Mm.
having substance. Um, and I'm mindful of if and when I do that, how does that affect my emotions, around my family? So that increase of dopamine and then that intense drop of dopamine.
Yeah.
And how does that affect my mood around my family and at home? The financial implications of like setting boundaries of, this is how much I'm willing to bet and lose and whatever. And there's that component of it. And also, am I doing it to distract myself from my feelings?
Yeah.
And yesterday, so I'm in a punters club where we bet on a Saturday, and yesterday I just wasn't feeling the need or desire to do that,
Yeah.
and I feel like it was because I was aligned with my family. We're all on school holidays. We're all together. I feel like they needed my attention. I did a couple of podcasts yesterday, so I was in that spiritually connected frame of mind. So it's really interesting when I'm really connected and attuned to those spiritual principles that I don't feel like I need that distraction
Yep.
in gambling.
And that's exactly what I was saying to you. Yeah. Being awareness of this, of where you're at any given moment. But with my understanding, I also need to be a human being at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
chemical pleasure, you know? I
Yes.
mean, if we were to stop all our dopamine because we're addicts, then we'd never have sex again.
Yeah. Well, you need dopamine, don't you?
Yeah. So it's nothing wrong with getting a small dopamine spike, but just being aware, like you said, very much awareness and being honest with yourself.
Mm.
Generally, and then probably being honest with someone else if you feel like there is something, and run it by. And I do run it by my friends. You know,
Yeah.
all my friends know what I do. I don't hide it in secret, so I can't tell anyone I'm going to the pokies. I can't tell anyone I'm going. Everyone knows.
Yes.
No big secret.
Yep.
You know, I don't hide away. I don't have shame around it. I don't have any guilt around it. None of that sort of emotion comes up to me.
Because if you're being dishonest about it, that's when it's probably going to be a problem, isn't it?
It's about being honest about who you are and what you are. And I have different to opinion views to some other people, but I'm honest about them. You know, I don't think I've got to conform to what society believes all the time. I used to,
because it's your recovery, not.
I used to in my early recovery. I tried to be the perfect poster child for a fellowship. Yeah, and now I'm just me. You know.
Yes.
And I found that I'm not a bad
clearly
person.
working.
Yeah, I mean, I had this saying that I am unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's really good. Before we sort of start to wrap up the conversation, so tell me about how your recovery looks like now, John.
One of the key things that happened in my really early recovery is I got in contact with my son via Facebook because he had actually cut me off pretty much. He actually moved to country Victoria, as far away from me as he could possibly get. I don't blame him, to be honest. But I got in touch with him, and the first thing and I told him I was 3 months clean. He said, "Dad, I'm waiting for you to relapse." That was the first thing he said to me.
Wow.
Naturally, I haven't relapsed, and since that time, I built up a massively good rapport with my son. He's one of my best friends today. I've got 2 grandchildren. I've never seen the old me.
That's so great.
I go to Mount Gambier every now and then and spend the weekend with them. I just spent New Year's Eve with my son. He's a very successful person. He has a very successful life. He's not an addict, which is good.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and he has a massively successful life, and we're his best mates. And I remember when I was about 2 and a bit years clean, he rang me up with something was going on with his partner, and he rang up and asked me my advice, you know. And I gave him the best advice. I said, "Mate, you can call me anytime with anything you've got." I said, "Dad, you're the first person I called today."
Yeah.
I thought, wow, really interesting, really touching.
That's really special.
And that's the sort of relationship I have with my son nowadays. You know, that's incredibly good relationship. I've got a relationship with my dad, who I never had with before. We just be ships in the night passing, basically. I have a really good, intimate relationship with my dad now. My sisters, I've got a good relationship with. I was disbanded by everybody. Like, I was pushed them away and they pushed me away. I drive a really nice car now. You know, I never owned a car. If I needed a car, I'd just take your car. I didn't need a car because I just had access to any car I wanted, basically. I didn't need a license because it's not my car. I have a license. I pay taxes. I hate taxes, but I pay them. I went to school in my second year of recovery. I went back to school, and I left school at 14. I got a special exemption from school at 14.
Yeah.
Never was an academic person, and I found that I'm still not. It took me 4 years to get a 1-year degree. But I did stick it out for those 4 years. I actually did.
Amazing.
I've now got 3 degrees.
Wow.
I've got like I said, I've got a really nice car. I've got friends today, like real friends. Friends I can ring up at 1, 2 in the morning and say, "Look, I'm fucked. I need help." Talk to someone.
Yeah.
You know, I've been to hell and back in recovery. And one thing I must tell people, recovery is not always a bed of roses. I've had the second hardest thing that's ever happened in my entire life happened in recovery. And I didn't use. I wanted to, and I wanted to kill myself. Both those things came to mind very rapidly. But because I have a program, I have a spiritual understanding, and I have a group of really, really loyal friends who are really devoted to me, and they know who I am. You know, that saved my soul, basically. You know, but I had to lean on that. If I didn't have that, I would definitely not be here today. There's no way. You know, I went through some really, and also I've been through some tough times in recovery. But I remember this Buddhist saying that to achieve true spiritual mastery, you must be prepared to sit there, or you must have a smile on your face while your whole world is falling around you.
Mm.
So being grateful for the hard times. And that's something I haven't got there yet. I still struggle with the hard times, as everybody does. But the true idea of spiritual mastery is sitting there, and this is where it comes down to it is what it is, and things happen for a reason. So if my whole world is falling around me, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's happening for a reason. It is what it is. Then I've achieved true spiritual mastery. Haven't got there yet. I still struggle at times. But that's the concept of that, you know.
And we're flawed people, you know. Like, I'm sure even...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have to be a human being. I need to be part of the human race, especially westernized human race, you know.
Yes.
We're bombarded with all this negativity around us everywhere, and sometimes it's hard to fight through that. I'm definitely
life on life's terms, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And today I work in a psychiatric ward. I have done for the last 2 years. I've got degrees now, like I said, and I'm a peer worker. I help other people.
Amazing.
I've been through a treatment multiple times. For suicide attempts and other things, drug-induced psychosis, all that sort of stuff. And I've got the addiction side as well. So I've got a dual diagnosis when it comes to helping other people. And I found that my life experience has been my greatest asset. You know?
Yeah.
I don't regret a moment of it. You know, I don't regret a single moment of my existence. Like I said, I do believe everyone goes on a journey of their own kind. And having that belief and having that understanding allows me to let every human being on the planet go through their own personal journey.
Yeah.
I can be there as a guidance or a direction or something if they want that. If they don't, that's no problem either. I'm not there to force anything upon everybody. But I think if everyone had the ability to share their own life experience and what it meant for them without judgment and trying to push something on someone, they would have a lot more knowledge in the world about how to live a spiritual life. So I think we all have a spiritual understanding of some kind deep down somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that's a beautiful way to wind up today's conversation. I've really enjoyed it, John. Thanks so much for your time today.
I've got to thank you because, as you're probably aware of, when I'm giving back, I'm helping myself. Like, I'm going to finish this podcast now or soon, and I'm going to feel really good about this.
Yeah.
That's my dopamine spike for the day, mate.
Well, and you the same with me, mate. So this is all active service stuff, and, I get a lot out of this hour that we've spent together today. I hope you've got something from it as well.
Always do.
And even if one person listens to it, mate, and they can take a few little nuggets of our recoveries together and it helps give them a sense of hope, then it's all worthwhile.
Well, I look at you, if someone takes something out of it, just one person, hopefully it'll be more, but even if there's only one person, that one person will then spread that further through family, friends, other people they'll talk about. So it's just one person is way, way, way more than one in the end. We'll never know.
We'll never know. Thanks, John. I'm really grateful for your time today.
All right, mate. Thank you, James.
All the best. Hi, I'm James. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Please note that Slaying Sober podcast is an active service with no monetary reward. I intend to keep it this way. If you've enjoyed this, please rate on your chosen platform, tell your friends, or follow us on Instagram at Slaying Sober Pod. Your support is appreciated, and I feel the love. Thanks so much.